I'm Bill Hatton. I'm the editorial director of Shared Expertise, the editor of Corporate Responsibility Magazine, and of HRO Today Global. I'm very pleased to introduce our next session, and there is some crossover with corporate responsibility and sustainable workforce, which is going to be the topic for HR. We have our speakers are HRO Today's editor, Debbie Bola, is going to have a conversation with Kathleen Edge, the Executive Vice President of Human Resources at Southwire Company. Southwire is a Georgia-based power cable manufacturer that has a very innovative executive team. And they are doing a lot of extraordinary things. They even run a high school. And they're going to be discussing today employer engagement, workforce retention, and workforce sustainability. Kathleen Edge is responsible for the overall human capital and talent strategy, communication and delivery of HR services to more than 7,000 Southwire employees. She oversees recruiting, succession planning, training and development, employee and labor relations, health and medical services, compensation, benefits, safety and security, communication, and community relations. I think that's all, though, right? Please welcome to the stage Debbie Bola and Kathleen Edge.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that intro. Thanks, Bill. Hi, everyone. So a word that Bill used was sustainable. And I think that's an important word that we use in HR today because we're looking for engaged, retained employees, right? So by show of hands, who in this room has any concerns about employee engagement? Right? Thumbs up or thumbs down, I guess, if you're concerned. But do we have some thumbs up? Who has initiatives around it? Awesome. Okay, so that's good because we've all heard the very compelling statistics on how important it is to engage your employees. And as Bill said, we have Kathleen Edge, who's EVP of HR for Southwire, and they have an incredible case study on how they continue to track employee engagement and tackle some issues that they do find with their employees. So why don't we just jump right in, and I'd like you to just kind of give the audience an idea of why your company values employee engagement.
For Southwire, we are in a commodity industry. We make copper wire and cable that transmits electricity across the world. And so a lot of people are not going to be drawn to our industry. It's highly manufacturing. We have about 7,000 employees, and 75% of them are hourly manufacturing employees. So in order to have somebody even come into our industry, we have to be different. Also, anybody can make copper wire and cable, but how you go about doing it and the service that you provide the customers, the quality and the on-time delivery is what differentiates you. And as well as our innovation to look at the market and be disruptive. And so what we've done, and it's been from our founder, the company that started 65 years ago, has always looked at Southwire as a family. It was a family that he put together 65 years ago with 12 employees to bring electricity to his mother in rural Georgia. And we've been able to build upon that. And really for us, our employees make the difference. You can have the best strategy, the best leaders, the best equipment, and you can have great customers. But if your employees don't bridge that gap, you're going to just be a Me Too company, and why would somebody pick you over somebody else? You're going to be into a pricing war, and nobody ever wins the pricing war. So for us, it is a competitive differentiation in our space and critical mission for the family. We're a privately held company that is held by 5 shareholders that are 5 children of the founder, and it's their mission to have this company stay private, transfer to the 3rd generation, and celebrate 100 years, but never at the expense of the employees. So for us, it's about the Southwire family and doing what's right by the family.
So could you name just a few of your initiatives that you think help engage employees, encourage them to do their best?
think there's two things that, and I'll share a little bit of what we did when we integrated with a recent acquisition. There's two things that we always lead with engagement. The first one is employee communications. I can't stress enough, don't ever let your foot off the gas pedal. People want to know why you're making the decisions that you're making and what's impacting them. So we have our CEO, and he's been doing this for 10 years, every month has sounding board lunches and dinners. And we pull folks off the manufacturing floor and they come into the boardroom and get to have a dinner with the CEO, myself, and the head of manufacturing. And we talk about our children, talk about sports. I'm a big Alabama alumni, so football and SEC is big for us there. And so we talk about all different current events. Then our CEO, just in a roundtable discussion with about 12 employees, talks about the state of the business. And then he goes, now that we've given you a state of the business, tell me what's going on in the company. What should I know that I don't know? And he said you could have heard crickets the first time he did this, but they are nonstop. I mean, it is from anywhere from training, from not being able to use my cell phone, to amenities they have or don't have, or to equipment that's working or not working. And we bubble those up and we solve those solutions and get back to those employees. And he does this, a lunch for the day shift and a dinner for the night shift. And he does this on a regular basis every month. And it's now it started with him 10 years ago. We now have our plant managers do it in addition to his, as well as I have one-on-one lunches with folks just as a sampling and I do about 150 lunches a year in one-on-one just to understand what's the pulse of the organization. So sounding boards, I highly recommend it, very low cost investment. Our CEO also does videos on a quarterly basis to give the state of the business and brings guests on those videos so that we can show that in a consistent way across the company. And he's been doing that for about 9 years. We have an Inside Southwire newsletter. We have a Southwire News network that plays in all of our facilities. And one side is live TV, and we switch between CNN and Fox to keep everybody happy. And then the other side is the news about what's going on. Unbelievable, that doesn't even work sometimes. Or think about just going straight to ESPN and Home Garden Television and be done with it. On the other side, we put news about the company, whose anniversary, what's going on with your benefits, what's going on in the business, any major sales that we've made, any customers are visiting. So we always have a television station that's running. And the big piece we also have is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have a Just Ask program, and I get 100% of the questions. You can drop it in a box by paper. You can call a 1-800 number, or you can send an email to justask@southwire.com. And employees can ask any question they want, and we respond. And our goal is to respond within 5 days, and we track those. Again, it's a very inexpensive way to open up the communication lines. Our local leaders will draft the response, but I review and analyze all the Just Asks that come from the employees. And when I find facilities that are not getting Just Asked, I set up a meeting with the leadership team and ask, why aren't people asking questions? So having no Just Ask is actually worse than if you have a lot of Just Ask in our organization. So that's just some ways that we try to drive.
Right, and when we spoke earlier, I know that you guys went through a bit of a transformation this year,
Yes.
and communication was actually kind of a remark from the employees that they were feeling out of the loop on strategy and whatnot. So why don't you kind of brief the audience a bit about that, and then we'll cue a video that you brought with us.
We have had a rather large transformation. We made the largest acquisition in our company's history in February of 2014 and purchased a competitor that was based out of Waukegan, Illinois, and it brought in 1,700 new employees, and for us that was significant, which has now brought us to 7,000. And we had to figure out how are we going to consolidate those operations and how will we do that in the most humane way, because our shareholders it's very important for them that we make sure we give people notice if they're impacted. We do full severance. And we had to sit back, and we knew before we bought the company there would be a downsizing. And so on day one, when we celebrated the acquisition, we went out to every brick and mortar facility, and we had a former Coleman Cable leader and a former Legacy Southwire. Now we are one Southwire, but we had both leaders standing in front, and everybody had a consistent message. We had a CEO video, and the video included we'd already integrated the full executive team, so they saw executives that they were familiar with, and did this in all facilities, not just the newly acquired, but the ones that were part of Southwire before the acquisition. And we made a commitment we'd come back to them in 45 days and be fully transparent of the full consolidation plan. So we never let anything leak out, and we came back on March 24th and announced all the closures that would happen over the next 9 months, how the employees would be handled in their severance, And we did early retirements, we did distribution centers, we shut down 4 distribution centers, and we shut down 3 factories, and we shut our workforce by 11%. And we did that and announced it all in March and executed that throughout till the end of December. Well, then comes around August, and it's time for us to do our engagement survey. We do it about every 18 months because we want to make sure that once we get the engagement survey, we spend 3 to 4 months analyzing it and putting action plans, and then we have 12 months to execute, and then we come back and say, this is how we've done. So that's why we have about an 18-month pace. And there was a big debate whether or not we should do the survey or not, because again, we had just announced a reduction of about 10 to 11% of the workforce. Some facilities were shut down, some were about to shut down, and we did it anyway because it's the right thing to know. I said, if we don't know how our organization is doing in the difficult times, then we truly are not understanding the pulse of the organization. So don't ever let the leaders try to tell you, we don't want to know. You want to know in the good times, and you want to know in the difficult times if you're really going to be one organization. And we did a survey, and our survey in the previous year, we had a 90% response rate. And again, this is 75% hourly manufacturing, and it's all done online. And our engagement was 82% favorable. And which was very, very good. The benchmark should be about 70, 74. When we did this survey, ours came in at around 73. So we dropped from 82 to 73. Not unexpected. We had 1,700 new family members. We announced a lot of downsizing. But you know what their biggest question was? I don't understand how the strategy impacts me. So all this work we did to try to explain it, we still didn't do a good enough job to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and the employees did not understand the big picture 5 to 10 year strategy of the company. They understood the 6 months, the 9 months, but they didn't understand the bigger picture. And the second reason was they didn't feel there's any career progression, which I can understand with the downsizing. So we then came back and put together an action plan, and I shared with Debbie, we do our CEO videos, and this was a rather long video, and I've kind of done some snippets out of that video so you can get a feel for how we communicate.
Sure, and let's have a look at that video.
Now, let me turn back to the subject of our latest engagement survey. Following my last video, all of you participated in interactive meetings to delve into areas where we didn't score as highly in the survey as others. Our leadership team appreciated all the great ideas you shared and met for a couple of days to digest them and develop an action plan. Several of our leaders will share highlights of that in a moment. But first, let me personally address one of the recommendations that surfaced from many of you. You want to better understand our company's strategies and your role in achieving them. And that starts with me giving you the big picture. To that end, I want to share with you a presentation I recently made to the board and to our shareholders. It helps to capture not only our key strategies, but the context around why we're pursuing them. Okay, so I've put the ball in play by responding to one of your key recommendations, that Southwire's leaders, me in this case, do a better job of helping you understand our strategies. Of course, this big squeeze presentation is just a small step in that direction. Among other things, you also want to know your role in helping us implement the strategies I just highlighted for you. And in the process, you want the company to help develop your capabilities and your careers in ways that make you feel valued and give you a sense of personal progress. You had a lot of ideas in this regard as well. So let me now turn the floor over to some other members of our leadership team who've been digesting what you shared concerning your needs and ideas. These are some of the leaders who I mentioned recently took the input from your brainstorming and distilled out action plans. Hopefully you'll hear your own thoughts echoed in what they're about to share.
The energy team told us that they would like to learn more about the energy business. In April, we held our first seminar titled Business of a Utility. The Business of a Utility seminar was designed to educate our team on the changing needs of the utility industry and utility customers. Not only did employees increase their business acumen, but they had an opportunity to network and collaborate and think innovatively. Following the Business of a Utility training, we will also provide a Core 10 overview. This will provide a deeper understanding of our top 10 alliance partnerships, Imagine a summary of all the details about each customer, everything from their financial performance to top regulatory issues. Tools like this will broaden employees' perspectives and really help them make better decisions on behalf of our customers.
Based on our last meeting, career development is critically important to you, and we heard you. Within the Portable Cord and Electronic Group, we are implementing the I Am Coaching Guide process for performance acceleration. This process is designed to help those who want a career path within Southwire navigate through it and sharpen their skills. We commit to talking to each individual within the Portable Cord and Electronic Group by the end of April to learn your aspirations. Some of the challenges we'll face is to remain flexible for each employee's career path. To overcome these challenges, we've committed to quarterly discussions with those individuals to make sure you stay on track for your goals and performance acceleration.
In 2015, energy manufacturing will be more proactive to better understand the training needs and wants of our employees as part of their individual growth and career development. Where are we in this process? We have conducted manager training and developed a plan for employee feedback sessions at each of the energy plants. Additionally, we have established a development course that we refer to as Business Person 101, and we are in the process of rolling out this training to all of energy manufacturing.
Is the mic back on? Thank you. So hopefully you got a bit of a flavor. What we did is when we got the survey results, we actually held what we called idea generation sessions. And again, whether you have 500 people or 7,000 people, it's very simply each leader had a town hall for their group and actually got on flip charts and said, okay, you've told us about career development, you told us about communication, what do you want us to do? And then we took all those ideas and we had a leadership summit and everybody had to come there, and that's where you saw the pictures. They had to come with those ideas and start vetting them and put together an action plan. And then each person provided a one-page summary of their action plan, and we selected a few to be on the video. So again, how large your organization, it's really about HR being a facilitator to help managers address the needs of the employees.
Right, and I guess part of your culture must be very based on trust, because having a town hall style meeting might be intimidating for some employees, especially during such a transformative time. I'm not sure if I should speak up. Is it appropriate for me to say how I feel? But was there any negative feedback like that, or is it just the culture that brings people to the point where they feel like they can express their main concerns?
I think our leadership team has created a culture where we expect people to give us feedback. So when we ask for feedback, Southwire doesn't hold back ever.
Right.
They're going to tell you whether you like it or not.
Right. And then how did you distribute the videos?
The videos we distribute, we have a link or we send them a DVD depending on if they have. Not everybody has good internet in some of our locations, and we're still trying to work on that, but there's huge infrastructure there for that. But we distribute it out, and what our CEO, Stu Thorne, does is 2 weeks to 10 days prior to the launch, because we do it all in the same week across the company, we hold a teleconference. Him and I host a teleconference together. They get a copy of the video the night before, and they get a script, and then they have different questions they need to answer to fill in. And we do a Q&A, and Stu shares his personal thoughts of the key messages of the video, and everybody gets time in advance to then plan for their sessions. So again, we try to give a facilitator's packet, a video, a script, and different questions to answer. Again, trying to make sure the experience is consistent across the company, which is what's important to us.
Right, and I mean, it's a very transparent approach, and something that we hear commonly when I'm doing interviews or research is that organizations do make the effort to do the employee surveys. They're trying to gauge what the workforce is thinking and feeling, but then do nothing with the results, right? So you guys go ahead and do things with the results, and what is the feedback from employees? Do they feel like they're being heard, or do you track the results of these videos?
We do track the results, and one of the things on this particular one, because Stu is very passionate, because this is three 18-month cycles in a row, the career development has come up. So we're much more diligent, and he's actually going to hold a leadership summit to ask employees. He's going to ask them in advance, what has changed for you in the last 6 months? And then he's going to hold a teleconference, say, I heard nothing's changed in this, and this area. And then a year from now, we're going to hold a recognition and celebrate the successes. So we're going to build in a reinforcement. Are you doing what you said you're going to do? And then we're building in a recognition next year to recognize those leaders that did drive, and we're going to do the engagement survey results, and he's going to give recognition to those that improved in those areas.
Right. And you said that the engagement dropped
Yes.
during this year, although it is still a very high level of engagement. So what was some of the positive feedback that you saw from the survey?
The positive feedback continues to be over 94% of our employees intend to stay at Southwire, 97% are proud to be at Southwire, 92% enjoy the people they work with. So we've continued to create. The areas that dropped was leadership trust, and that's why I was interested in the presentation earlier that it changed by age. I did have to go look at ours. It's pretty much consistent across the age. We were in the high 70s, and then we were in the high 60s. Again, we announced a lot of bad news. So the areas that we do really well is really about the pride, the culture, and that I intend to stay at Southwire. The areas that we need to really continue to focus on is what is our strategy. And I think the challenge we have that many other companies don't is we're privately held. So we don't share any financials. It's not out there in the World Wide Web. So you have to work even harder because it's very guarded with financial information because it is a competitive advantage against the publicly held. So we have a different challenge in that way.
Right. And when you talk about the leadership trust having issues, of course that's very common, going to happen during a big M&A. But are you taking certain initiatives to build that back other than the videos?
What we're trying to do is one thing that our CEO realized, he got caught up in the last 12 months in the acquisition itself, then in the integration, and he hadn't been spending enough time walking manufacturing floors.
Okay.
And then he asked everyone to say, how often are you walking the manufacturing floors? How often are you walking the hall? And realized that everybody had been so focused on, one, getting the deal done, two, getting the consolidation plan, three, getting the integration done, we had lost sight of some of our basic fundamentals. And so I think more visibility, more walking around, and visiting more facilities.
Right. And so what do you think some more next steps are?
Our big next steps is to deliver on the plans. I can say we have about an 80-person corporate HR team that includes cafeteria, fitness, communications, security, and the whole gamut. And I had to present our plan, and I asked them for the feedback, and again, they were honest. And one of our head of our food operations, he goes, well, we've seen these kind of things before, but we've never seen them really happen sustainably. I said, okay, I'm making that commitment. So again, it's living up to those action plans, but our employees are still going, okay, I hear you on the career development. Are you really going to do something about it? Because that is probably our biggest gap is career development for Southwire.
And how do you think you're going to communicate that? Because I know you said that's important to your culture.
For me, we have the CEO videos, which is usually around Stu's message. And so I made a commitment to meet with the corporate HR team once a quarter that we're going to talk about the HR 5-year strategy. We're going to do formal recognition every quarter, and we're going to talk about the business update, and then we're going to talk about the next 90 days to make sure everybody understands, here's our plan, here's our strategy, here's our progress. More people, you cannot communicate enough. I can say you cannot communicate enough.
Right, great. I'd like to open the floor up to any questions. Does anyone have any questions for Kathleen? I'm sure someone does about engagement strategies. Anybody?
Nope.
Let me see.
You're talking about some of the advantages. You're talking about being a private company, right? So there's things you can't disclose that hamstring you, right? Are there advantages that you're finding to being private in terms of how you can engage these folks?
For me personally, as an HR practitioner, this is the first privately held company, and I made a conscious decision I wanted to do. I've always been in publicly held companies for the first 22 years of my career. I find it an advantage because in a privately held company, you have the luxury of face-to-face conversations with your shareholders, and they understand the business cycle, and you make long-term decisions. From an employee engagement, the fact that you're making long-term decisions, you have fewer down cycles as we just experienced, but our employees understood that. So I think the benefit of a privately held is you have a longer-term vision, which then drives longer-term engagement by employees because it's less of that quarterly get the numbers. So I find that as a huge advantage for us.
Anyone else?
What did the executives go through in terms of engagement instead of employee engagement? What about executive coaching? Was there any kind of thing you thought about relative to coaching of the executives on the executive level?
You heard some reference to the IM in our video. We have part of our vision and part of our mission around talent management is I am Southwire, and I have a unique experience that allows me to live to my highest potential. And that we do that by nurturing, engaging, and leading our organization. So that is our talent management mission. And what we have done is we've been doing coaching and feedback training for all of our leaders, and we started with our executives. One of the instruments, many of you have heard of the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument, the HBDI. What we have found is our leaders forget that not everybody thinks like them, because they're like, I've arrived, everybody thinks like me, I talk about what I need to talk about, we're all good. And so we've built that into our coaching training, and having our leaders learn how to have a coaching conversation versus a performance evaluation. And part of that is adjusting your style to the needs of the person. So yes, we did lead with our executives in 2014 on performance management coaching. Also, because we had such a difficult message, we actually did communications training with our public relations firm that everybody got videoed and practiced how well do you come across when you're doing in-person communication. So one was the content, and again, everybody knows what percentage of communication comes through content? Out of 100%, what percentage comes from content? 7%. And so it's really nice to talk about the content and have all these great facilitators guides if they're going to have the paralysis in the face and they're going to have, if I could just get this over with, I've got another meeting to go to. So we go through the coaching conversations, how to navigate that, and how do you come across visually. So yes, we did make a huge investment in that, and we have been doing that, and now we have a Southwire Leadership Academy we launched 2 years ago, and that's become a core component of that academy.
Questions for you. First, your turnover. What is your turnover?
Our turnover across the company from a manufacturing is about 10%. We bought some facilities back in 2011 through a company that was going through bankruptcy, and their turnover was about 50% at their manufacturing facilities, which we had to bring into the Southwire family, and ended up not able to have a viable workforce in those areas. So our legacy Southwire is around 8 to 9%, but some of the newer facilities we just purchased with Coleman Cable are at 33 to 49%. So what we did is we found out that they did not have the fairness and equity practices to basic things that we consider how you manage breaks, how you manage job postings, how you manage fair pay, and we've already started integrating all that into the new locations.
Tracks really nicely to your survey.
It does.
How many people are saying they're staying? And the second, in terms of engagement strategies, how do you differentiate it between those that you call more professional staff versus your hourly staff? Have you done anything different, or you treated everyone in the same similar manner?
So the question is, do we handle are our solutions different for hourly versus salaried, which is how we segment an organization. From a leadership development, the leadership development programs are different. We have a senior leadership development, we're launching a management development, and then we have a supervisory training program. Tom Heberling, our head of our energy manufacturing, he talked about Business Person 101. We partnered with a West Georgia Technical College and built out a Business Person 101 that's geared for somebody that's on the manufacturing floor, how to build out their business acumen, ask the right questions to make better decisions when they're on the floor. So we do customize the solutions, but the employee communications are the same for everybody. So when it comes to career development, it's different by segment. When it comes to employee communications, it's the same for everybody.
Anybody else have a question? And just to round our discussion out, the forum is based on how great culture and HR leadership is the ultimate competitive advantage. And I just thought you could break down a few things that you feel are a competitive advantage at your organization.
Probably the lead competitive advantage we have is, and we recently validated this with an instrument, Spencer Stewart Executive Search Firm, is actually, we're public, everybody knows, our CEO is retiring at the end of 2016. Going to be a major change for us. He's been with us since 2000, and so we're searching for our next CEO. And unfortunately, our talent development did not develop them from the inside, and culture is big for us. And so we actually did a cultural diagnostic to really be able to assess our culture and are we consistent, and they've said they've never seen such alignment. And so that's kudos to our chairman of the board, Roy Richards, and Stu Thorne, our CEO. They've driven a very consistent culture, and we're able to assess candidates now against that to know if there's going to be a gap. And our biggest one is we are a very caring organization. You've heard me refer to family and community. That is really what it's about. When I first got there, I was like, is this real? And I'm there 6 months later, and I'm pinching myself. Yes, it's real. Hire a VP of marketing, Kelly Hansen, come in. She goes, yeah, this is real. And a caring organization, which is really about, we have a power fund, which is, as employees, we can contribute to a fund that'll help others that are in need. So if somebody's had a catastrophic event happen, we had one of our leaders in IT fell down the stairs in the basement and actually ended up in the ICU for about 3 months and is going through very significant rehab. We have abilities to do catastrophic grants through our power fund for all of our employees, and it's actually managed by a board of directors of employees. So that's the way we give back to the Southwire community. We also launch, every month you'll get an email that says in the area that you are, here's different ways you can volunteer, and if you volunteer twice in 1 year for 2 different events, you earn a black shirt, and it's a Southwire black shirt. We hit our 10th anniversary, and we have about 900 black shirts now. And you cannot get a black shirt unless you earn the black shirt. So you can't go buy it. We have a Southwire store where a lot of people buy different Southwire paraphernalia from us, but you have to earn your black shirt through your volunteer hours. And we track our volunteer hours, talking about our big data, we track our volunteer hours on our human capital dashboard. A big differentiator for us is the way the Richards family has chosen to give back to education. And if you've ever had a chance to read about it, it's an organization called 12 for Life. And 12 for Life was created because in West Georgia, Carrollton community, our high school dropout rate is rather significant, and our high school dropout rate is in the high 50%. And we require a high school education to work in our organization in any role. And part of this is self-serving in the event that we're not going to have a sustainable workforce as our baby boomers start to retire, as well as the community is not going to have a viable community because they don't have enough people being able to be employable and give back to the community. And so in a rather innovative way, we created an organization called 12 for Life, where we actually have a light manufacturing plant. And it's work, and you have to be a junior or a senior in high school that has trouble with economic means and about to drop out. And we actually have you come and work, and you make $10 an hour, so we always want it to be well above minimum wage. And we have classrooms, and we partner with the high school in town, and we have classrooms and computer labs set up in the middle of the cafeteria, and they go and have classrooms. We also supplement that with life skills training. So how do I buy a car? Because many of these children come from impoverished homes where they've never had a car. They come from impoverished homes, maybe drugs involved with their parents, and so we teach them different life skills that they otherwise wouldn't have. They also get partnered with a mentor from Southwire, one of our professionals that volunteer to mentor, and through their 2 years to finish, and their whole goal is to get their high school diploma. And we look at it as a very sustainable. We accept no government funding because we need it to be sustainable. We don't apologize that we do make a profit out of the business, but that's how we're allowed to continue to grow the business. And our first one started in Carrollton, Georgia, and we now have a second site in Florence, Alabama, connected to another facility. So now we have 2 12 for Life, and our mission is to add a third in Southwire. And we want to be able to graduate 2,020 students by 2020, and we're approaching 900 already. So very excited about that program, but it's a big differentiator for us in that it's just as another way that we give back, but do it in a very sustainable way, because we really look at it that you have to have the triple bottom line. It can't just be about profit. It has to be profit, environmental, and social.
Great. Well, Kathleen, I certainly appreciate your candor and your transparency and feedback. I hope everyone in the audience has something to take back to their organization. So please join me in thanking Kathleen.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dennis.